Hello, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. Hey, we're so excited you decided to stop by. Hey, you can catch us every Wednesday evening, 8:30 Central Standard Time or 9:30 Eastern Time. We want to see you right here at Positive Power Christian Radio. Again, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades and Justice podcast, a chance where you can hear about justice and injustices here in our country. Again, Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. Hello and welcome to Shades and Justice podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Evelyn Hill, and you can always find me at www.drevelynhill.net. Oh my goodness, we have a superstar in the building today. We have the one and only Miss Tamara Grubb, and she is the founder CEO of Be Bold. Yes, that's right. I said it. Be bold. Tamara, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I can live up to that hype.
Oh, you will.
I need, you know what? I can't wait for this recording to come out because I'm going to record just that and wake up in the morning with that intro. That's my new intro for everything right there. I love it. Thank you, Dr. Hill.
Well, you are so welcome. I'm going to start off by reading this scripture. It's Proverbs 31:9. I've read different scriptures to this audience from time to time, but I want to do this again to remind us. This is Proverbs 31:9, and it simply says, "Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy." And so, with the type of work that you do with a title of an organization called Be Bold, that means you don't mind opening your mouth and speaking for those who may not be at the table. So thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. No, thank you for this opportunity. This is great.
Yeah. So do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself, kind of this journey that you're in, and how did you get to this space?
Sure. So I guess we have to start back in 1980. So let's buckle up for a second here. But, I'm an 80s kid, right? So I was born in the 80s. I grew up in Northwest Missouri, up in St. Joseph. And, I was so blessed. My mom had an in-home daycare my whole life. And so I was always around kids and people and different people. And my dad was a union man. He started as a meat packer back in the 80s up in Northwest Missouri in St. Joe at Old Montfort Pork, and then grew into leadership in the union world. And so, I from a very young age was able to understand what it was like to work for and with others. And I was just naturally brought up in that environment. I think I was like 6 years old when I walked my first picket line, at the old food barn when they went on strike. And, and I just, I remember being a part of, political campaigns, and back when they had like the phone banks. I don't know if they still do that or not, but all those things when I was just a kid. But probably the biggest thing that had an impact on me that propelled me to really who I am today is what I can recall as my first volunteer experience when I was in the 3rd grade. So in Northwest Missouri, there's an organization called AFL-CIO Community Services, where they were originally founded to help union families who were struggling, maybe through a layoff or through a strike or things like that. But one of the things that they had, and they still have to this day, is a Christmas Adopt a Family program. And I was in the third grade, and my dad, during Christmas break, he took me and dropped me off with this lady named Penny Adams, who was the executive director there. And by golly, I was working in the food pantry that day. I was answering phone calls. They put me to work.
How
And
old
I
were you?
remember I was in the
How,
third grade.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I was in the third grade sacking groceries. And again, they even had me by the end of the day. I was on the phones, taking phone calls, looking up families, answering
Uh-huh.
questions. Like they just put me to work. And my dad came and picked me up like probably about 5 o'clock or something. And I get in the car and I was like, Dad, there's no Santa Claus. And and I think he probably figured that by then I knew that, but I clearly did not, because the whole day I was just like, well, why? I mean, why do people need adopted for Christmas? Like what? And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that I think was the day that I learned about privilege. I didn't know the
Yeah.
word at the time, but I learned at that point in time, very early in my childhood, that my life and my experiences were different than others, but that I can make an impact in what they do. And so that really propelled me from the third grade to now, even into, adulthood, into always working to help other people better their lives,
Uh-huh.
and what skills and gifts and things that I have that can help other people. So that, those experiences when I was young is what, in my family, is what makes me who I am today.
Wow, what an amazing story. At in the third grade, you're like volunteering. You were voluntold and dropped off by dad, and then you were educated on some realities in life,
Mm-hmm.
all right there together. That is amazing. Now, two observations on my part, just with that piece alone. Number one, your dad knew he could trust you to go in there and do the work. And number two, you were willing to go where you had not been before, all by yourself with Miss, what was her name?
Miss Penny
Miss
Adams.
Penny. Yeah, Miss Penny Adams. You were willing to go in there and work with her. Absolutely incredible. I haven't heard anybody on our podcast so far ever mention anything about third grade, ever, especially especially when it comes to volunteering for those less fortunate. So, right off the bat, we're off to an awesome start in this podcast. So, thank you for sharing that. Now, I met you personally in 2023, and oh my goodness, what an amazing opportunity I had just to meet you and all the other folks that we met at that time. And it was just so encouraging. You had such a way of uh, being very matter of fact, but at the same time being gentle and kind. And so I want to commend you for that. And
Thank
it
you.
sounds like, looks like you're continuing in that role. What how in the world did you transition from being with a particular organization, because you worked for several over the years,
Mhm.
and then you go into entrepreneurship? What happened?
Well, I would say life happened, right?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that in the time that we met in January of 2023, I had actually just in November of 2022 went through probably one of the hardest experiences of my life, outside of when I lost my dad in 2006. And I had a loss of someone who was just so dear, and that person who, he was my boyfriend. We had been together for nearly 5 years, and he passed away in November of 2022. And I came to Christ uh, in 2013. So for, a little over 10 years now. And one of the things that I always struggled with was, okay, God, is that you telling me to do that? Or is that my selfish ambition? Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, what's me?
Yeah.
What's God? What's, and what I experienced though in November of 2022 is God very clearly talking to me and telling me he's going to pass away. You're going to be okay. And you need to listen to what I'm about to tell you so that way you can support his family and we can all get you guys can all get through this. And so that of course stopped me in my tracks because I'm in this like horrific moment, right? And I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, yeah, this is terrible, but I knew that God was right there with me. And that was extremely transformational because I would say that was really the turning point of me knowing better what was God and what was me.
Mhm.
And that's been the big piece of that journey that I've been on, really just over the last year is I feel like my life has sped up by 10, right? Like in the sense of, with without what others may think. So I'll give you an example. I've written a book in the last couple of months, and my book actually, I got the notification that they shipped out yesterday, right? And so
Yay.
yes, I'm so excited. But what people see is, oh my gosh, Tamara, you wrote a book in like 3 months. But I've been saying I was going to write a book for 20 years.
Oh.
And so yes, I am moving quickly, but what I'm actually doing is those things that God has put on my heart, I'm just doing them.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and he's seeing me through that because I'm just following his lead,
Mhm.
but also with that confidence in myself that the things that he's leading me towards are all things that he's already equipped me for.
Mhm.
And so as I'm, so my life has absolutely transitioned. And from, basically I began to know in November of really 2024 or 2023 that I was going to transition and break out on my own. And then, really made that decision in January 2024 and then launched Living Bold in April
Mhm.
and jumped off a cliff. And, but I've got the ultimate parachute though. I'm following God's lead, and you know, he's showing me the way in every opportunity. So I'm just staying in obedience to him.
Mhm. I really love what you said, the part about jumping off of the cliff. And sometimes the cliffs make you walk backwards. You're not
Oh
quite
yeah,
ready to jump off, but you were willing to jump off because you understood who the umbrella was to let you down gently, which was the Lord. That was awesome. I love that uh, uh, part of your story. And then something else that really tells us, the audience, a lot about you is what you shared about losing someone very close and very dear to you. And instead of you being angry at God and pouting and saying, I don't believe in you anymore, you heard his voice like never before. And I mean, the
mm-hmm.
scripture says, my sheep shall know my voice, and another they will not follow. And I must admit, I go through the same thing. Okay, is this me or is this God? And
Sure.
usually, if I really, really don't want to do it, then it really is God because it's nothing I want to do.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
and
Well, and I
so,
think the other difference for me too is I mentioned I lost my dad in 2006,
yes, yes.
um, and I lost him actually June 5th. So this time in
Wow,
2006 would be the last day that I would talk to my dad. And then
wow.
he committed suicide and um, was found on June 7th. And so
Mhm.
June 7th will be I'm losing track of the years here, but yeah, I don't know. It was 2006, so lots of
Yes.
years ago. I can't math
Yes.
that right now, but
Yeah.
I really, really struggled when my dad died, and it wasn't just because it was a suicide and all the things that come
Hmm.
with that, right? But it was
Hmm.
because I didn't know God,
Oh, I see.
and 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 the other piece of that too is I really struggled with my mental health and all of those things, but I absolutely love the book of Esther, because if you ever read the book of Esther, for those of you who maybe have never read it, go and read it, because what's amazing about the book of Esther, among a lot of things, is that God is never actually mentioned.
Right.
But as you
Hmm.
read through it, you see his hand in everything.
All through it. Yes.
So even though I didn't know God in that 2006 to really 2010 time period when my life was really just in shambles, to be quite honest. From a mental health perspective, I was not well. I attempted suicide myself. I was just in a really bad spiral of life.
Wow. Mm.
Um, but and again, he saved me for all that,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes. Yes.
trust me, I tried really hard not to be in this world. I was like, I'm good. I'm done. And
Yes.
God pulled me through that. I didn't know it was God pulling me through it. I
Yes.
just was like,
Yes.
geez, I can't even do this right, right? Like I was just like, wow, what am I here for?
Hmm.
And then when I would come to Christ, when I later, become to know Jesus in 2013, um, and then going through this huge emotional loss again, I, God was like, hey, kid, I'm right here.
Yes.
I'm right here. Don't you take your mind back to where you were when you've
Yeah.
experienced this before.
Hmm.
I'm here. I was there then. I'm here now. And you just need to listen to me.
Hmm.
And that was just, again, that transformational thing of when we go through those really hard times, if we just tune into him,
Hmm. Right.
he will carry us through. And also
Yeah.
he's going to bring amazing people around you too to carry you through
Yeah.
that.
Wow. That is something. And for our radio audience and podcast listeners, um, what a great testimony that Tamara gives concerning mental health and finding the solution, which was Jesus Christ. What an awesome story that is. And now she's like Living Bold. That's the name of her business. That's the name of her organization is Living Bold. So what a transformation God has done inside and out in your life, Tamara. And we celebrate you and what the Lord has done in your life. Now, hey, tell us a little bit. What have you observed over the years, both corporately or personally, injustices that have been in your community or your surroundings or your space?
Yeah. So, one of the things that, again, as you're going through it, for me, I didn't realize, again, just how blessed I was. I just thought, this must be how it is everywhere, right? But
Uh-huh.
I've always had a really amazing blessing and opportunity that anywhere that I've worked, they've been willing to pour into me.
Yes.
And I stand before everyone today. I graduated high school in 1999. I've attempted college a few times. I have no college degree, but I've done a lot of amazing, crazy things that if you didn't know me, you would
Absolutely.
think I was lying to you, right? Like, no, really, what? But what I had around me though was people that was like, you should go to this conference, or you should try this, or have you read this book lately? And people that just poured into me, and so I was able to learn
Uh-huh.
and just stay ahead of the curve. And so I think that's a major injustice that I think a lot of companies and corporations nowadays, they don't invest in people like they should.
Ah,
And I think
wow.
investing isn't just about, again, paying for someone's schooling. but
Yeah.
it could be as
Yeah.
something as a book club, right?
Yeah.
Or, caring enough to know that I'm working on something in my life. And when I reach that milestone, it's celebrated, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
There's not enough investing in people. So I think
Hmm.
that's a huge injustice. I
Uh-huh.
also think that one of the things that is just staring us in the face right now is the issue of generational diversity.
Yes.
So, right now, there are 5 generations in the workplace.
Uh-huh.
That none of us are used to that, right? That's
Yes.
not anything that we've been used to. And so you
Uh-huh.
have all of these 5 generations that are just like going like this, like it's everybody else's fault. Why aren't they smart enough? Well, why don't they care
Yeah.
about me? And
Hmm.
and it's also because we've lost the ability to just have conversations with each other.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think a big injustice again in the workplace is understanding the generations
Hmm.
and helping people through that. And then the third one that I have, and this, you talked about me being bold, so I gotta open my mouth, right? But I promise I'm doing it from a place of love, and I've thought about it, and I've talked to Jesus about it. I swear. But why are women so mean to each other?
Ooh, I love that question.
Like, some of the rudest people I've ever been around have been other women.
Yes,
And I don't understand that because this world is hard enough.
it is. Yes.
And, again, I'm that kid that grew up in the 80s. So when I say Mean Girls Club, the folks of my generation know exactly what I'm talking about. We got to wear pink on Wednesdays and, you're either in or you're out and whatever. And I'll tell you, I was very blessed because I had friends that accepted me. But again, I was that kid who I was never really that good at anything. My brother was like the superstar athlete. I had 2 left feet. So I wasn't really super smart and I wasn't athletic. And so I was just kind of like, I was just but people loved me and
Yeah.
and so I had good friends and everything.
Hmm.
And so I was blessed in that. But there is I've just witnessed it so much in the workplace of people just bullying and just sabotaging each other
Yeah.
because we forgot that it's not about us.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, if
Exactly.
I bust through a glass ceiling, I'm supposed to reach my hand back and pull you with me,
Hmm.
not make
Exactly.
you bust it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think so I really am going to pick on women here that we got to do better, and I'll put myself in that category too because I know that I'm not perfect, but we got to do better. But I think that ability for us to speak life into each other is a huge
Yeah.
injustice in why I think this generation, this newest, the Gen Z, and especially the alphas who are growing up right now, I'm gonna tell you
Yes.
right now, they're not gonna put up with you. They're not gonna put up with it. They're very
Yeah.
much like, why are you so rude?
Yeah.
And they're gonna
Exactly.
call you out on it because you got to think of what they've lived through, right? They've
Hmm.
never went through an airport security without just that security and being wanted, and they've lived the post 9/11 life, and they've
Yes.
lived through COVID and every
Hmm.
like they go through shooting drills at school.
Yes.
Why do I want to come work for somebody who's rude to me every day?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get away with that anymore. And so I think there's a real revolution that's going to happen for all of the right reasons, to where, companies are going to realize they need to invest in their people. We need to be talking about our differences and how to harness those and embrace those. And we got to be speaking life into each other. And I think if we can battle those 3 injustices in the workplace, this world will be a much better place.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I just got stuck on that last one. Why are women so mean to each other? And then you said we got enough to go through. At least let's be nice to each other. I love that. We recently through the Unified Government of Wyandotte County had Be Kind to Your Neighbor Week. And we need to extend that to every year. We just
Yes.
need to be kind the whole year to everybody. Even when they are a little ticked off, you can still check them in a kind way. But I absolutely love that. We need to get rid of that crab mentality where they pull you back down into the bucket instead of allowing you to rise to the top and then help you even over to the next area, to the next level in your life. So, man, I love that. Miss Tamara, you really are living bold. If you can talk to the ladies and get us right, that's half the battle right there.
It
But
is. I mean, we need to be speaking life into each other.
yes,
And
yes.
I remember several years ago, I was working at a company that my brother was involved in, and there was a partner. And long story short,
Uh-huh.
this woman, she was like, you know what? Maybe one of these days you'll be as smart as your brother. Maybe one of these
Uh-oh.
days you'll be as smart as your brother. And I was just like, what she didn't realize is from that point on, there wasn't going to be one more word that she was going to speak to me that I was going to listen to. You done shut me
That,
down. And if
that's
you
right.
think I am not the type where if you tell me, well, if you were a little more like them,
Wow. Yeah.
no, because guess what? I'm not them. And,
Right. Right.
and so, just embracing those unique qualities of ourselves and loving each other for who they are and meeting people where they are and saying, you know
Yes.
what, let's do this better. Let's work on this together. Let's
Yeah.
come alongside each other and,
Hmm.
absolutely. I've never heard of the crab, but that's so great. Like, I
Yes.
love that. Like, stop pulling me into the bucket.
That's
Like,
right.
no,
That's
yes,
right.
I love that.
Yeah. And I love speaking life to each other. I mean, it's not hard to do, if some days, even if we don't speak, if we could just smile with
Mm.
authenticity, to be able to be authentic even with a smile, that would be awesome. If we could stop the gossip, that would be great. And quit talking about each other negatively behind each other's back. That would be
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. Have I ever participated in any of those negative behaviors? Yes, I have. And
All of
so
us have.
I've come
Yeah.
a long way and trying to move myself to a much better space. And that's why many times on these podcasts, I lift women and whoever my guests are, the whole thing is to lift them up, to celebrate them, and make sure we know how we can help to support and encourage them. So you are my guest today, and I'm learning living bold. This is a wonderful exchange. So
Absolutely.
I want to go quickly, and we're running out of time, but I want to do two questions. Number one, um, is there a mentor or individual who challenged you to make this bold new step, and why now versus later?
Sure. So I would say just in the last few years, there's really been kind of four things that I would say have really, four people or individuals that have really pushed me forward. And one, Wyandotte County legend, Teresa Van Gotham or Van,
Yes, yes.
she she has poured into me so much, uh, and I just, that woman is a gem.
Mhm.
And so Van has poured into me, and that's been amazing. Pastor Adam Hamilton from Church of the Resurrection,
Mhm.
that's the church that I go to. And then also one of the first books of his that I read was called Unafraid.
Yes.
And that was really powerful for me to, again, kind of step out and also acknowledge, like, hey, you do have an anxiety, but how do we deal with that, right? And how
Mhm.
do we walk in faith?
Mhm.
And then Pastor Robert Johnson has his book Kingdom Moments and Movements. Pastor Robert is also a Church of Resurrection, and that book is all about being intentional and seeing God's hand. So that book has been great for me, and Pastor Robert's encouragement. And then, I talked about losing my boyfriend in November of 2022. But what I gained in that was what I call my Oklahoma family. And Donna and Randy and my brother Ryan and friends and family. I have this whole new family, and Kiana, Joe, and her husband Bobby are part of that family. But I have this family of people now in my life that just empower me. And I know that I can talk to them and they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, you screw up. They're going to be like, wow, dude, what are we going to do about that? Right. And just people that I can be myself with, and they love me for that. Not any of this tit for tat or strings or ickiness, right? I am very blessed that I have truly that tribe of people around me. And so cutting things off of my life that weren't doing that, I'm very much like, you're either pouring life into me or you're taking out of my bucket. And for some people, I'm going to pour into your bucket. But also I'm going to keep my circle very close. Right. And so those are really the things that have really challenged me, and just gave me that strength here on earth, right? That physical strength that we need through love and relationships.
Well, that's pretty amazing. And we all need our own tribe. All of us need a tribe that even when we do bloopers, they check us, but they love us anyway. We all need that. And so I just want to leave this conversation today with making sure we get the best out of life by loving each other, by being kind to each other, by lifting each other up, and being able to help those who are less fortunate. Can we volunteer somewhere? Is there something we can do to make a difference in somebody's life that's positive? And you shared a lot of good stuff. And I think what people need to know is, I have seen you. Now, you said, oh, I don't have a degree, I don't have this, and I don't have that. But this is what you do have. You have this drive to read. You are an avid reader. And it, along with those who have poured into you over the years, you are one of these super gifted, talented women. Back in the day, it was the bionic woman. She had all these she was really strong, but you have all these strengths. I've seen you create curriculums. I've seen you create policies. I've seen you indulge in activities that challenge both staff and leadership teams toward excellence. So whatever the book knowledge, as far as what you would have learned in college, I think you've gained it by your personal experiences, by your mentors, and by your own tenacity to read and to learn. And I have gained so much by just listening and being under your tutelage over the last year. So I just want to say that. Hey, this is my story and I'm sticking to it.
I love that. Thank you, Dr. Hill. I appreciate that more than you know.
Yes. Now, before we go, I want you to be sure and tell us the name of your book, the name of your organization. How can we order your book? And what is your website? We want to, if someone wants to go in, check you out.
Absolutely. So all of our social handles are I Am Living Bold. So if you go to iamlivingbold.com, or again, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all I Am Living Bold. And on our Facebook page, we have a link for the pre-sale of my book. My book is called Perfectly Broken, and it is meant to be a pocket guide to help build your relationship with Jesus. And what I tried to do is, when I first started going to church, like I walked out of there with a Bible and I was like, this is really cool. What do I do with that? And so I try to give everyone those opportunities to, learn how to dive in. So there's kind of tips and tricks and just things that have really helped me grow in my faith. And so it's just meant to be a pocket guide, and it's interactive, in that you could read it all in one setting if you wanted to, but it's kind of meant to. It starts out where you scan a QR code, it takes you to a worship song to listen to. Then you jump into some words, and then each chapter kind of has like a little worksheet or something for you to work on. So you won't be bored with it. I can promise you that. So that's my book. You can buy it on our Facebook page. There's a link. Again, just look up Living Bold or I Am Living Bold on Facebook, and you can get to that. And then we also are doing a ribbon cutting on June 11th. So this time next week, or next Tuesday in Lee Summit at 4:00 at the Fillmore Cafe. You can find out all of that information. Also, it's called the best launch party ever. So they'll have an opportunity. We're doing a ribbon cutting with the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and just going to really celebrate being a new business in our community. And we'll be scheduling one of those in the KCK area here soon too. But from a scheduling standpoint, we're starting there, and then we'll do one here in another month or so out this way. So, but yeah, and then my email, everything's on the website, but it's just Tamara at iamlivingbold.com, and would absolutely love to. I'm a big coffee drinker, so coffee, tea, whatever. I'll meet anybody for coffee, and we can just talk about life and if you don't have a person, I'm happy to be your person and help you, in any way I can to find your tribe.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Tamara. This has been an incredible interview. I am just full now that we've been able to share, and I've been able to feel like I'm loved and lifted up and all that by you. Just this whole conversation has been awesome. So we will be getting back to you very soon, and we have a couple other things scheduled with you. Want to encourage others that Tamara does a variety of different things, from HR management to strategic planning to whatever all else. You want to share what else you do, mitigation and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, my whole thing is I am on a journey to help build leaders in our community. And I believe that we can do that through strategy, education, and training. And one of the simplest way to do that, again, all this information is on our Facebook page, but every morning at 6 a.m., and you can also, if you just register, you can catch the replay if you're not an early bird. But every morning at 6 a.m., we jump into God's Word. And just for about 15 to 20 minutes each morning in a devotional. Right now, we're going through the book of Philippians. And then we're going to jump into the book of Ephesians. So for me, I know what has changed my life is building my relationship with God. And so it's a free opportunity. It's online. I'm the only one on camera. So you can be in your PJs. You can be outside smoking a cigarette with your coffee. It doesn't matter to me. But we'll just jump into the Word of God together. And so that's another opportunity. But any way that I can help your business or people personally, just reach out to me. I've got a wealth of experience, and I've done a lot of things in my life, and just want to pour into people.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again for this wonderful session with me. And again, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. And guess what? I am living bold. Why? Because of this young lady right here, Miss Tamara Grubb. All right, everybody, we'll see you next time. Shades in Justice podcast with Dr. Evelyn Hill. Okay, bye-bye. Hey, thanks for being at our show on tonight. This is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. Another great evening to be alive. Hey, this is Positive Power Christian Radio. Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. Hey, see you next time. You can meet me every Wednesday at 8:30 Central Standard Time or 9:30 Eastern Standard Time right here at Positive Power Christian Radio. See you next time. Bye.